I think we're going to hold some meetings with you on a fairly regular basis over the coming days, and I will bring you up to speed on if anything that I said today was erroneous, and certainly as we get new data, I'll let you know. As far as the bipod area, we believe it was foam. We do not believe it was any metal. We don't believe there's any opportunity for any metal to be shed. And in fact, our films show that when this particular debris impacted the wing, there was a puff of debris, like when it hit, it disintegrated itself. And so I don't believe there's any chance that it was hardware. It was all the soft foam insulation.
Jerry Hannafin, Time Magazine. Is there any indication from what you learned so far, Ron, in this incident that maybe the stress, we're maybe overstressing this space plane in the role reversal process? I think at one point the left bank had got up to 57 degrees.
Yeah, that is not uncommon to have that type of roll reversal and bank angle. In fact, we've seen a lot steeper banks than what you just mentioned. We'll have to go back and look to see if that is a factor. That'll be part of our gathering the debris, inspecting that debris, and seeing if there's anything there that would give us a clue as to whether this was structural in nature, structural failure, whether it was thermal related or some other. So we're going to have to be some detectives and look at the debris and gather that evidence to determine what the cause was.
Along Miami Herald, if you had had a sudden break in the heat envelope or sudden heating, would that have knocked out the sensors, or would you have expected to have seen a heat measurement before they quit working?
Well, it's certainly speculative to try and understand the relationship between any thermal environment on whether that thermal environment would have translated into an area of wiring and then destroyed wiring. Hard for us to respond to that question today. Be glad to take that question in the coming weeks as we get some information where I can respond to it factually.
Yeah, you know, you guys are trying to help us, and we thank you for that. I mean, you can continue to ask questions like this, but you know, everything would be a speculation, and that's not fair. It's not accurate, and I know you want to be accurate.
Let me interject, because we're also need to recognize these two gentlemen have been on duty since about midnight last night. So I want to bring up a point that we are going to try to do briefings daily, at least daily. So please try to form your question appropriately so we can get through today, and I need to get them out of here fairly soon. So I need to wrap up with KSC as quickly as possible. I've got some other NASA centers to get done also before I wrap up. So let's make two more at KSC and then move to headquarters, please.
Gentlemen, first let me offer my condolences. I'm Robert Pankow from WFLA Radio. If you can you tell us all how the families are holding up under the circumstances, the families of the astronauts?
See, we don't have any firsthand knowledge, and I believe earlier in the day, Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. Reedy talked a little bit about how the families reacted, both with our administrator and with the phone call from our president. So I don't have anything to add other than what was said previously.
Yes, hello, this is Philip Davis from National Public Radio. I was wondering if after the loss of communications, did you notice any deviation in the flight path of the shuttle?
When we lost communications, we also lost our ability to track the vehicle. And so we had no indications whether or not we were off the flight path. We had no indications that we had a breakup. Only later, as we reviewed the TV coverage, did we see that there was a breakup.
And, you know, in the control center, just to share with you, we have plots of the trajectory and how we're flying, and I know others stared at that for a long time because the tracking ended, you know, over Texas, stopped, And it was, and I reflected back what I saw with Challenger.
Okay, let's go to headquarters, please. There's questions there.
This is Frank Mooring at Aviation Week for Ron. Could you give us an idea of what your investigators are going to be looking for at Michoud and when they're going to start looking?
We had already kicked off an effort, even prior to this morning, to try and determine why the debris was being shed from that bipod region of the tank. And the reason we kicked off that effort, because we knew we needed to understand it prior to the next flight. So we were already aggressively on a path that was going to try and help us understand whether or not that represented any concern to us, since now we had it 2 times in the last 3 flights. So that was a major element in our planned flight readiness review for STS-114 that's scheduled for March. So that activity was already in place, already ongoing. What we have done today is asked our external tank project team and Lockheed Martin, which is the contractor for the tank, who builds the tank in Michoud, the Michoud facility in Louisiana, to isolate certain pieces of hardware, to gather data that might be pertinent to this discussion, and to make sure that we have not put in jeopardy any piece of evidence that might be helpful to us. So we've taken those steps. Those are in place or are ongoing right now, and we'll be able to keep you aware and tell you what's happening in the coming days if there's anything that comes out of this.
Charles Science Magazine. What are the contingency plans for the International Space Station in the event of a grounding of the shuttle fleet for an extended period of time?
All I know today is that I've talked with our station program management. They have been in contact with all of the international partners. They understand what happened today in the shuttle program. They are going to proceed as planned tomorrow to resupply the station via the Progress vehicle. There is a Soyuz launch that is planned later in the spring, and we know that we have sufficient consumables on board to go through the end of June without any shuttle support. Beyond that, I have no further information. I hope that we get this situation resolved in the coming weeks so that it isn't an extended period of time, but that remains to be seen. In the near term, we know we have months of adequate supply on board the International Space Station, and we also know that we can help resupply them from our international partners' resources. So that's what I know today, and we'll see how that matures over time.
This is Laura Meckler from the Associated Press. Could you tell us any more about how you'll approach the recovery of all the debris that is spread over such a large area, and what the NTSB's role is going to be in that, or what their role is in the investigation, and also how long you think it'll be before you know more about what happened today?
We have many government agencies that are helping us respond to this tragedy. The NTSB is at our disposal. We have the FBI that is involved with us. We have local and state law enforcement. We have FEMA that is also helping us tremendously. We have been assured that we will have the assets and the efforts of our government to help us wherever we need to gather debris, get it in the right locations, identify any crew remains, get them to the right locations. All that is ongoing. It's being organized. It's a tremendous effort that has been engaged and is in the process of coming together from all different agencies in different parts of the country. I don't have much more information other than those ingredients today. As these things come together, and as we start basing and we start collecting, I'll keep you informed on just how that is going and where these things are happening. and certainly we'll respond to your questions as this moves along.